a Civil War drummer boy, a suffragette and doctor of medicine, a son of a U.S. president, and a Kentucky farm boy. What do these 4 people have in common? All 4 earned the Medal of Honor, the United States Armed Forces' highest military decoration. Stay tuned to learn more about their histories. I'm your host, Bruce Whitman, here to share a few amazing stories of bravery and valor from our nation's heroes who have earned the Medal of Honor. Next on Marking History. Located close to March Air Reserve Base in California stands not just a marker, but this incredible memorial to recipients of the Medal of Honor. The United States of America Medal of Honor Memorial honors each hero on these campaign panels with their names inscribed in gold. On this panel, you'll find Dan Daly and Smedley Butler from the First Haitian Campaign. And on the World War II panel, you can find James Doolittle and John Basilone. Now, let's learn more about the history behind the prestigious Navy, Army, and Air Force Medals of Honor. On December 9, 1861, Iowa Senator James Grimes introduced legislation in Congress to create Medals of Honor in order to promote the efficiencies of the Navy. This medal was presented to enlisted seamen and Marines who distinguished themselves by gallantry in battle during the American Civil War. 12 days later, President Abraham Lincoln signed the legislation, creating the first Medal of Honor. Next year, on July 12, 1862, Lincoln signed new legislation creating the Army's Medal of Honor. The Air Force would establish their own distinct version over 100 years later in 1965. Bravery, courage, sacrifice, integrity, and a deep love of country. These are the values represented by these 3 variations of the Medal of Honor. Steeped with detailed and thoughtful symbolism, the medal has become an historic symbol of our nation's bravest. Out of respect for those who have earned it, its appearance has remained largely unaltered in over 150 years. Before we share these 4 stories of bravery, let's talk about the symbolism of medal design. The Navy and Marine Corps' Medal of Honor is our country's oldest continuously awarded decoration, and its design is rooted in the Civil War. The outer design includes an inverted 5-pointed star with a cluster of laurel leaves for victory mixed with oak for strength. The design is encircled by 34 stars, representing the states of the Union at the outbreak of the Civil War. The central motif is an allegory in which the goddess Minerva uses the shield of the Republic to put down the figure of discord, which is plainly a reference to the unfolding split in our nation. Minerva, the Roman goddess of wisdom and war, is on the right. The owl perched on her helmet represents wisdom. In the Roman tradition, her left hand holds rods and an axe blade, symbolic of authority. In her right hand is the shield of the Union of States. A man clutching snakes in his hands, representing discord, recoils from Minerva. This medal is awarded to Navy, Marine, and Coast Guard members. The Army Medal of Honor has some designs borrowed from the Navy medal, along with its own take on symbolism. The most updated design has a wreath of laurel leaves, a symbol of victory, surrounding the original 5-pointed star. A simple profile of Minerva, Roman goddess of wisdom and war, rests in the center of the medal. Above the Valor banner is perched the eagle, the traditional symbol of the United States. This Medal of Honor is awarded to Army soldiers. The Air Force Medal of Honor has some designs borrowed from both the Navy and the Army medals, along with its own symbolism. The Statue of Liberty is centered, surrounded by the 34 stars, representing the number of stars on the U.S. flag in 1862 during the war between the states. Above Lady Liberty is Jupiter's thunderbolt, borrowed from the Air Force coat of arms. This Medal of Honor is awarded to Air Force and Space Force members. Today, all Medals of Honor hang from a light blue ribbon, a color of valor, with 13 stars representing our nation's 13 original colonies. Young Willie Johnston was a Medal of Honor recipient during the Civil War. He was a drummer boy in Company D of the 3rd Vermont Infantry. When his division was routed during the 7 Days Battle of June to July 1862, he was the only drummer who had brought his instrument off the battlefield. His superiors considered this a meritorious feat because the regiment's other soldiers had tossed away their guns and equipment to lighten their loads during their retreat. Why was his action so important? Because drummer boys played a pivotal role during battle. In the noise and confusion of combat, it was often impossible to hear the officer's orders, so each order was given a series of drum beats to represent it. Both soldiers and drummers had to learn which drum roll meant meet here and which meant retreat. The most exciting drum call was the long roll, which was the signal to attack. At age 13, Willie Johnston, the drummer boy in the Vermont Infantry, remains the youngest recipient of the Medal of Honor. Dr. Mary Edwards Walker was an Army surgeon, a prisoner of war, and a spy. And out of the 3,535 Medal of Honor recipients, she is the only woman to receive one. When the Civil War broke out in 1861, Dr. Mary Walker wanted to join the U.S. Army as a surgeon, but was rejected because she was a woman. So she volunteered for the Union Army as a civilian, becoming the first female surgeon in Army history. By September 1863, she continually crossed Confederate lines to treat civilians. During this assignment, it is generally accepted that she also served as a spy. She was taken prisoner in 1864 and imprisoned in Richmond for 4 months until she was exchanged for Confederate prisoners. After the war, Dr. Walker sought some sort of military recognition to validate her service and her sacrifices. However, due to the laws at the time, women were not allowed to receive any form of military commission. Instead, President Andrew Johnson awarded her a Medal of Honor in November 1865. Walker was awarded the Medal of Honor even though she was a civilian who had never been a commissioned officer in military service. But her story doesn't end here. When the standards for the Medal of Honor were revised in 1917, Walker's medal was one of 900 rescinded. The new standards specified direct combat with an enemy as the guiding benchmark for the nation's highest award. Walker's valiant Civil War service as an Army surgeon and her 4 months as a Confederate prisoner of war did not qualify. But her story gets better. Dr. Walker refused to return her hard-earned honor. When federal marshals arrived to take Walker's Medal of Honor in 1917, she met them at the door, wearing it around her neck and brandishing a 12-gauge shotgun. Evidently, the weapon spoke volumes because Walker kept her medal, wearing it every day until her death in 1919. In 1977, 58 years after her death, an Army board reinstated Walker's medal, citing her distinguished gallantry, self-sacrifice, patriotism, dedication, and unflinching loyalty to her country, despite the apparent discrimination because of her sex. Theodore Roosevelt Jr., son of a U.S. president, earned the Medal of Honor during the Normandy invasion. As Brigadier General and Assistant Division Commander of the 4th Infantry Division, he led the first wave of troops ashore at Utah Beach during the Normandy landings in June 1944. 57-year-old Roosevelt would be the only general to land by sea with the first wave of troops on D-Day. General Roosevelt was soon informed that the landing craft had drifted more than a mile south of their objective, and the first wave was a mile off course. Walking with an aid of a cane and carrying a pistol, he personally made a reconnaissance of the area, then returned to the point of landing and coordinated the attack on the enemy positions confronting them. General Roosevelt's famous words were repeated by Henry Fonda in the D-Day movie The Longest Day.
We're starting the war from right here.
His valor, courage, and presence in the very front of the attack and his complete unconcern at being under heavy fire inspired the troops to heights of enthusiasm and self-sacrifice. He thus contributed substantially to the successful establishment of the beachhead in France. The following month, General Roosevelt died in France of a massive heart attack. At the time of his death, he had been recommended for the Distinguished Service Cross to recognize his heroism at Normandy. The recommendation was subsequently upgraded, and General Roosevelt was a posthumous recipient of the Medal of Honor. Dakota Lewis Meyer is a retired United States Marine, a veteran of the war in Afghanistan, and a recipient of the Medal of Honor for his actions during the Battle of Ganjgal. On September 8, 2009, near the village of Ganjgal, Corporal Meyer learned that 3 Marines and a Navy corpsman, who were members of Meyer's squad and his friends, were missing after being ambushed by a group of insurgents. Hearing over the radio that 4 U.S. team members were cut off, Corporal Meyer seized the initiative. What Meyer did next will live on in Marine Corps history and earned him the Medal of Honor. He told Staff Sergeant Juan Rodriguez Chavez that they were going in. Juan jumped into a Humvee and took the wheel. Dakota climbed into the turret and manned the gun. They were defying orders, but they were doing what they thought was right. So they drove straight into the killing zone, with Dakota's upper body and head exposed to a blizzard of fire from AK-47s and machine guns, from mortars and from rocket-propelled grenades. Coming upon wounded Afghan soldiers, Dakota jumped out and loaded each of the wounded into the Humvee, each time exposing himself to all that enemy fire. By the 4th trip, Dakota was now wounded in the arm. Their vehicle was riddled with bullets and shrapnel. Still under heavy enemy fire, he left the vehicle on the 5th trip and moved on foot to locate his team members. Corporal Meyer eventually found the 4 missing servicemen, dead and stripped of their weapons, body armor, and radios. Rather than give up, Marine Meyer risked his life to bring the bodies of his buddies back home. Bleeding from his shrapnel wound and still under fire, he carried their bodies back to a Humvee with the help of Afghan troops and escorted them to a nearby forward base. Retired Sergeant Dakota Meyer learned that he was receiving the Medal of Honor with a phone call from the White House. He shared his story with David Letterman.
Then I get a call on a Friday, and I'm on the lake. I was wakeboarding, and they said the president will call you at 11:50 on Monday. And they're like, listen, now you need to be on a landline, be there an hour prior. You know how the Marine Corps is. And I said, well, there's no way that's going to happen because I got to work. So I said, we're going to have to get him to call my cell phone, and I'll try to arrange my lunch break around that.
Faith with the highest traditions of the Marine Corps that you love. Because of your honor, 36 men are alive today. Because of your courage, 4 fallen American heroes came home. And in the words of Jane Layton's mom, they could lay their sons to rest with dignity.
Many states have markers, statues, and monuments honoring their particular Medal of Honor recipients. Here at the National Infantry Museum in Columbus, Georgia, is the Hall of Valor, which honors the American infantrymen who have received the Medal of Honor. To experience the history of all Medal of Honor recipients, you should visit the Medal of Honor Museum, located on board this World War II aircraft carrier, fondly known as the Fighting Lady. This is the USS Yorktown, located here at Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum in Charleston, South Carolina. The Medal of Honor Museum pays special tribute to American heroes who made the ultimate sacrifice, ranging from the very first Medal of Honor recipients during the Civil War all the way to the War on Terror in Iraq and Afghanistan. There are new plans to honor our heroes. A new National Medal of Honor Museum is planned in Arlington, Texas. It's scheduled to open in 2024. And a new National Medal of Honor Monument is planned in our nation's capital and will be a key part of the D.C. landscape. March 25th was established as National Medal of Honor Day. Each year on this day, Medal of Honor recipients lay a wreath on the tomb of the unknown soldier in Arlington National Cemetery. The unknowns buried here are each Medal of Honor recipients. Since 1861, the meaning behind the Medal of Honor has never tarnished. Etched within are the very values that each recipient displayed in the moments that mattered: bravery, courage, sacrifice, integrity, a deep love of country, and a desire to always do what is right. If history can be taught with stories, it can never be forgotten. Please like our video, subscribe to our channel, and ring the bell to stay informed on the latest video. And don't forget to leave your comments below and tell us what you like about this video.